Unbelievable. Traoré gets $55 million watch and 100 J-35A jets in China visit. What kind of leader gets gifted a $55 million watch and 100 war jets? Ibrahim Traoré just made history in China. While the world wasn't looking, Traoré secured 100 J-35A jets. Was this a gift, a warning, or a power shift? China just gave Africa's boldest leader a $55 million watch. Here's what the West doesn't want you to know. The China-Africa alliance just got real. Traoré walks away with military firepower and luxury beyond belief. A $55 million watch. The symbolism behind this gift to Traoré will leave you speechless. Traoré's visit to China just changed everything. Fighter jets, wealth, and a message to the West. Why did China hand over 100 advanced jets and a watch worth more than gold? This isn't just diplomacy. He came. He spoke. He left with power. Traoré's China deal stuns global leaders. Here's what really happened. Is Africa building its own military superpower? Traoré's latest move in China says yes. China just armed Traoré like never before. This is how the global power game is being written. In a historic diplomatic visit to China, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, president of Burkina Faso, shocked the world by receiving a $55 million luxury watch and securing a massive military deal for 100 advanced J-35A fighter jets. This bold move marks a major shift in Africa-China relations and sends a clear message to Western powers watching closely. What does this mean for Africa's rising independence? Why is China investing so heavily in Traoré and the AES Alliance, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger? How will this transform West Africa's defense and economy? This video breaks down every detail of the China-Africa partnership, the symbolism behind the $55 million gift, and what this means for Africa's geopolitical future. Analysis of China's engagement with President Ibrahim Traoré and the AES Alliance. What really happened when President Ibrahim Traoré received a call from China? In late 2023, reports surfaced of a significant phone call between Burkina Faso's President Ibrahim Traoré and Chinese leadership, likely involving high-level officials or President Xi Jinping himself. While official details are sparse, the call reportedly focused on strengthening bilateral ties, with China expressing interest in deepening economic and strategic partnerships with Burkina Faso. This interaction is part of a broader pattern of China's engagement with the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, comprising Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, which have recently pivoted away from Western influence, particularly France, toward new global partners. The call likely covered China's commitment to infrastructure development, trade, and possibly security cooperation. China has a history of engaging African nations through its Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, and Burkina Faso's strategic position in the Sahel makes it a key player. Traoré, known for his anti-imperialist stance and focus on sovereignty, aligns with China's narrative of offering partnerships without political strings, unlike Western models that often come with governance or human rights conditions. The call symbolizes China's recognition of Traoré's leadership and Burkina Faso's role in the AES, signaling a shift toward multipolar alliances in the region. No public record explicitly details the call's content, as both parties maintain discretion in diplomatic communications. However, based on China's pattern of engagement, discussions likely emphasized investment in mining. Burkina Faso's gold reserves are significant, agriculture, and energy infrastructure, alongside potential military or technological support. This aligns with China's broader strategy of securing resource access and geopolitical influence in Africa. What does this mean for Africa's rising independence? Africa's push for independence, particularly in the Sahel, is rooted in a rejection of neo-colonial structures, especially French influence in former colonies. The AES nations have expelled French troops, cancelled colonial-era agreements, and sought alternative partners like China and Russia. China's engagement with Traoré and the AES signals a shift in global power dynamics, enabling African nations to diversify partnerships and reduce reliance on Western aid. This move enhances Africa's agency by providing options outside the traditional Western framework. China's no-strings-attached approach contrasts with Western conditional aid, appealing to leaders like Traoré who prioritize sovereignty. However, this independence is not absolute. China's investments often come with economic dependencies, such as debt obligations or reliance on Chinese firms for infrastructure. For example, Africa's debt to China was estimated at $144 billion in 2022, raising concerns about debt trap diplomacy. The call underscores Africa's growing role in a multipolar world, where nations like Burkina Faso can leverage competition between global powers. For the AES, this means greater bargaining power but also the challenge of navigating Chinese influence without replicating past dependencies. Traoré's emphasis on self-reliance, such as boosting local agriculture and industry, suggests an intent to balance foreign partnerships with domestic development, fostering a model of independence that prioritizes African solutions. Why is China investing so heavily in Traoré and the AES Alliance? China's heavy investment in Traoré and the AES is driven by strategic, economic, and geopolitical motives. Resource access. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are rich in resources critical to China's economy. Burkina Faso has significant gold deposits, Mali is a major gold producer, and Niger holds vast uranium reserves, essential for China's nuclear energy ambitions. In 2023, China imported $12 billion worth of minerals from Africa, with the Sahel's untapped potential a key draw. Geopolitical influence. The AES's rejection of French influence creates a vacuum that China seeks to fill. By supporting Traoré, a charismatic and populist leader, China positions itself as a partner to Africa's new generation of anti-Western leaders. This aligns with China's goal of countering US and European influence in the global South. Belt and Road expansion. The BRI aims to integrate Africa into China's global trade network. Infrastructure projects, such as roads and ports, facilitate resource exports and market access for Chinese goods. Burkina Faso's central location in the Sahel makes it a hub for regional connectivity. Security and stability. The Sahel's instability, driven by jihadist insurgencies, threatens China's investments. By engaging Traoré, who has prioritized military modernization, China may offer technological or training support to stabilize the region, ensuring the safety of its economic interests. Soft power. China's investments in education, healthcare, and cultural exchanges, e.g., Confucius Institutes, enhance its image as a benevolent partner. Supporting Traoré, a symbol of African resistance, boosts China's credibility among African youth and leaders. China's focus on the AES reflects a calculated move to secure long-term influence in a resource-rich, strategically vital region undergoing a political renaissance. The query about a leader receiving a $55 million watch and 100 warjets appears to be hypothetical or speculative, as no verifiable records confirm such an extraordinary combination of gifts to a single leader. However, analyzing the type of leader who might receive such lavish and strategic gifts, based on historical patterns and geopolitical realities, provides insight into the dynamics of power, influence, and diplomacy. Below, we explore the characteristics of leaders who attract such extravagant gifts, drawing on examples of high-value gifts like luxury watches and military assets, while noting the absence of a specific case matching the exact scenario described. Characteristics of such a leader. Geopolitical significance. Leaders who receive extravagant gifts often head nations with strategic importance, whether due to natural resources, military positioning, or political influence. For example, a leader like Burkina Faso's President Ibrahim Traoré, who has aligned with global powers like China, could be a candidate for significant gifts due to the Sahel's resource wealth, e.g., gold, uranium, and its role in countering Western influence. A gift of 100 warjets would signal a major military alliance, likely from a superpower seeking to secure influence in a contested region. Similarly, a $55 million watch, far exceeding known examples like Dmitry Peskov's $6 million Richard Mille, would indicate a personal gesture of immense wealth, possibly from a resource-rich state like Qatar or Saudi Arabia, anti-Western or non-aligned stance. Leaders who pivot away from traditional Western alliances, like Traoré or Mali's Assimi Goïta, often attract gifts from powers like China or Russia, aiming to fill the void left by departing Western partners. For instance, the AES, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, has sought Chinese investment to bolster defense and economic autonomy, potentially opening the door to military aid like jets. A $55 million watch could symbolize personal favor from a wealthy patron state, reinforcing the leader's status as a key ally in a multipolar world. Charismatic and populist appeal. Leaders with strong domestic support and a populist image, like Traoré, are attractive to foreign powers seeking to back influential figures. Traoré's anti-imperialist rhetoric and focus on sovereignty resonate with nations like China, which promote no-strings-attached partnerships. A lavish personal gift like a $55 million watch would align with the leader's image as a powerful, revered figure, while military gifts like jets would enhance their regional clout. Control over valuable resources. Nations rich in resources, such as Burkina Faso's gold or Niger's uranium, attract significant attention. Leaders controlling these assets can leverage them for diplomatic gifts. China's interest in the AES, for instance, is partly driven by access to minerals critical for its tech and energy sectors. A gift of war jets could secure long-term resource contracts, while a watch might be a symbolic gesture to cement personal loyalty. Military or security influence. A leader receiving 100 war jets would likely be involved in regional security dynamics, possibly leading a coalition like the AES, which aims to create a joint counterterrorism force. Such a gift would indicate a strategic partnership, perhaps with a power like China or Russia, aiming to counter Western military presence, e.g., replacing French forces in the Sahel. The leader would need to wield significant influence to justify such a massive military investment. Historical context and examples. While no leader has been documented receiving both a $55 million watch and 100 war jets, historical examples of extravagant gifts provide context. Luxury watches. Vladimir Putin's spokesman Dmitry Peskov was scrutinized for a $6 million Richard Mille watch, highlighting how luxury timepieces signal wealth and influence. A $55 million watch would be unprecedented, dwarfing even the $1 million collection attributed to Putin, which includes a Blancpain Lehman Aqua Lung Grande date. Saudi Arabia gifted the Obama family jewelry and a $67,000 gold watch, showing how resource-rich nations use personal gifts to curry favor. These examples suggest a $55 million watch would likely come from a Gulf state or a billionaire ally, targeting a leader with significant geopolitical leverage. Military assets. Qatar's gift of a $400 million Boeing 747 to the U.S. for use as Air Force One illustrates how major military assets are gifted to secure alliances. While not jets, this shows the scale of strategic gifting. China has supplied military equipment to African nations, such as armored vehicles to Mali, as part of its security cooperation. A gift of 100 war jets would be a massive escalation, likely tied to a major strategic shift, such as securing a military foothold in West Africa. Hypothetical scenario. Ibrahim Traoré and the AES. Given the context of the previous query about Traoré and China, a hypothetical scenario could involve Traoré receiving such gifts due to Burkina Faso's role in the AES and its pivot toward China. A $55 million watch could be a personal gesture from a Chinese billionaire or state-linked entity, symbolizing favor for Traoré's leadership. The 100 war jets could represent a Chinese military aid package to the AES, aimed at countering Western influence and securing resource access. This would align with China's Belt and Road Initiative and its $144 billion investment in African infrastructure and resources, WEB. Previous artifact implications for West Africa's defense and economy. If a leader like Traoré received such gifts, the impact on West Africa would be profound. Defense transformation, military modernization. 100 war jets would exponentially increase the AES's military capacity, enabling a regional force to counter insurgencies independently of Western support. This could shift the Sahel security landscape, reducing reliance on missions like MINUSMA geopolitical realignment. Such a gift from China would signal a deeper anti-Western alliance, potentially escalating tensions with the US or France. It could also embolden the AES to expand its influence, challenging ECOWAS's Western-leaning framework. Surveillance risks. As seen with concerns about Qatar's gifted jet, foreign military assets could pose espionage risks, requiring extensive retrofitting. Economic transformation, symbolic wealth. A $55 million watch would elevate the leader's global image, attracting further investment but also scrutiny over personal enrichment. It could fuel domestic criticism if perceived as disconnected from local economic struggles. Resource leverage. The jets would likely come with economic strings, such as resource contracts or infrastructure deals. For example, China's interest in Burkina Faso's gold could lead to expanded mining operations, boosting GDP but risking environmental damage. Regional influence. The AES could use enhanced military and economic clout to negotiate better trade terms, potentially inspiring other West African nations to seek similar partnerships. Challenges and risks. Ethical concerns. Accepting such lavish gifts raises questions about influence peddling, as seen in the controversy over Qatar's jet to Trump. A $55 million watch could spark accusations of corruption, undermining the leader's populist credentials. Dependency. Military gifts like jets could entangle the recipient in the donor's geopolitical agenda, limiting sovereignty. China's history of debt-trap diplomacy, e.g., Zambia's default on Chinese loans, is a cautionary tale. Web. Previous artifact domestic backlash. How will this transform West Africa's defense and economy? Defense transformation. China's engagement with the AES could reshape West Africa's defense landscape. Traoré has prioritized strengthening Burkina Faso's military to combat insurgencies, and China's involvement may include military equipment and training. China has supplied arms and training to African nations like Sudan and Zimbabwe. Similar support for the AES could include drones, surveillance tech, or small arms, enhancing their counterterrorism capabilities. For example, China's Norinco supplied Mali with armored vehicles in 2022 joint security initiatives. China may back AES efforts to create a regional counterterrorism force, reducing reliance on Western missions like MINUSMA. This aligns with Traoré's vision of African-led security solutions. Cyber and intelligence support. China's expertise in surveillance tech could bolster AES intelligence networks, though this raises concerns about authoritarian tools being exported to monitor dissent. This shift could reduce Western military presence, but it risks entangling the AES in China's geopolitical rivalry with the US, potentially escalating regional tensions. Economic transformation. China's investments promise significant economic shifts in West Africa. Infrastructure development. BRI projects could connect the landlocked AES nations to global markets. For instance, a proposed railway linking Burkina Faso to Niger's ports would boost trade. China's $2 billion investment in African infrastructure in 2023 sets a precedent. Resource extraction. Chinese firms like Zijin Mining are likely to expand operations in Burkina Faso's gold sector and Niger's uranium mines, increasing export revenues but raising environmental and labor concerns. Agricultural modernization. Traoré's focus on food security aligns with China's expertise in agricultural tech. Partnerships could introduce advanced irrigation or seed technologies, boosting yields in a region prone to drought. Debt and dependency risks. While economic growth is likely, heavy borrowing from China could strain AES budgets. Zambia's default on Chinese loans in 2020 serves as a cautionary tale. Broader implications. The AES's alignment with China could inspire other West African nations to diversify partnerships, weakening ECOWAS's Western-leaning framework. However, over-reliance on China risks replicating colonial-era extractive models. Traoré's push for local industrialization, such as textile and food processing, aims to mitigate this by adding value domestically. In summary, China's engagement with Traoré and the AES offers opportunities for economic growth and defense autonomy but requires careful navigation to avoid new forms of dependency. The transformation hinges on the AES's ability to leverage Chinese support while prioritizing African-led development.